Hello and welcome to the webinar. Today we will be talking about the Maryland Forest Financing Implementation Tool, or MD-Ffit. MD-Ffit was developed by the Maryland Department of the Environment for use by local governments as well as private and non-governmental entities that are interested in funding riparian forest buffer restoration and tree planting projects. This webinar will provide information about how MD-Ffit works, its various inputs and outputs, and its main uses as well as limitations. Please note that this is a technical presentation intended for a technical audience. It is recorded so you can go and review it as needed as you explore the tool. To access any of the links in the presentation, please download the presentation PDF we have linked in the video notes. If something in this presentation seems unclear, you can refer to the MD-Ffit user guide or feel free to reach out to an MDE staff member who would be happy to answer any questions. You can find links to MDE staff contact information at the end of the presentation. MD-Ffit is meant to be used in conjunction with the Maryland Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund, which is a financing program more commonly known as the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, or SRF for short. The program is administered by the MDE and capitalized by annual grants from the federal government and matching funds provided by the state. The SRF provides loans at below market interest rates. Once repayments and interests are returned to the fund, they are loaned out to new projects, hence the term revolving. The SRF is a reliable source of over $150 million in financing per year for water quality projects and represents one of the best deals in the market. There are many reasons that financing a water quality project with the SRF is attractive. The biggest reason is the savings compared with a loan from your bank or the bond market. MDE's standard interest rate is about half the interest rate that a highly qualified community would receive on the bond market. The interest rate for disadvantaged communities is half of the MDE standard interest rate, or 1/4 of the bond market rate. In 2021, this translates to an interest rate of about 0.4% up to 0.9%. SRF loans can cover 100% of the costs for most projects and can also be customized to the borrower's needs. Importantly, this means a project can include design work, architectural and engineering planning, installation, legal costs, land preservation costs such as easement payments, and post-planting assessments. SRF funds can also serve as match for other sources of funding and provide great flexibility when a project involves a water quality improvement. The term of a loan from the SRF can range from 1 to 30 years, so it has a very broad coverage for the lifespan of your assets, which the tool presents in 5-year increments. For the purposes of an SRF loan, the term disadvantaged community is defined by the state. MDE considers a community disadvantaged if its median household income is less than 70% of the state average MHI, if the project is located in an environmental benefits district, if the community or county has unemployment in the upper 33rd percentile, or if the population is declining based on U.S. Census data. In addition to a reduced interest rate, disadvantaged communities may also qualify for loan forgiveness on a portion of their SRF loan. SRF programs must rank projects seeking loans based on their environmental impact. Each SRF program can establish its own scoring and ranking criteria based on the needs in their state. Maryland uses the criteria listed on this slide to rank projects. One thing to note is that total nitrogen reduction and the number of acres restored are important ranking criteria for forestry projects seeking SRF assistance. You can find full information about the Integrated Project Priority System on MDE's website at the link provided in the PDF. MDE recently expanded its project scoring system to include riparian forest buffers and added a methodology for evaluating total nitrogen reduction from these projects. MDE expanded the eligibility and developed Ffit to encourage local jurisdictions and their partners to pursue SRF loans as a financing option for riparian forest buffer projects. Ffit can help users determine how a large project can be completed within a set budget, as well as how much compliance credit a planned project might generate toward permit requirements. It helps users better evaluate forest restoration buffers in terms of fiscal feasibility, environmental co-benefits, outreach to private landowners, and of course, regulatory compliance with Maryland stormwater permitting requirements. Ffit is an Excel spreadsheet. One thing to note from the beginning is that the yellow portion at the top and the green portion at the bottom function separately and independently from one another. They're separate because we want to help project managers answer two different questions. The yellow section, called Discover Ffit, answers the question, how many acres can I restore if I have a fixed budget? This section is intended for users that don't have a lot of information about the project they're considering and are interested in getting some basic information about the benefits if they know the amount they have to budget. The scenario is based on default assumptions about project parameters and provides valuable information about project acreage, credits, and estimated loan repayments for a project with a specific budget. The green section, called Project Planning, addresses the question, how much of a loan and grant mix do I need in order to restore a fixed number of acres? This scenario is entirely user-defined and is intended for users who have more information about the project they are trying to build. The user must first enter line item information in order to calculate a total project cost. Then the tool will determine the environmental benefits that you would gain by implementing the project. It provides crucial data on how much you could save by financing the loan using the SRF compared to a bank or the municipal bond market. Users can enter information on the first tab, which is called User Interface. All other tabs contain backup supporting data and calculations that are not intended for the user to modify. In the user interface, all gray boxes you see along the left-hand side are user-defined input fields where you can enter data, or you can make selections from drop-down menus about aspects of a planned project, including project type, size, location, budget, and so on. The information entered in the user inputs is run through background calculations which produce the outputs. All outputs are shaded dark green on the right-hand side of the page. Ffit is designed as a single sheet so you can view inputs and outputs side by side. Jurisdictions often compare and select best management practices based on the cost per acre of their different options. Ffit calculates nutrient reductions and efficiencies for total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and total suspended solids based on user-defined inputs. Ffit also helps a project implementer calculate costs of working with partners, decide which elements of a project to retain versus outsource, and estimate how competitive a loan proposal to MDE or a grant provider might be based on nutrient reductions and efficiencies. Calculations can be done in a matter of minutes, with benefits and costs laid out immediately. If you would like to save a specific scenario, the tool can easily be saved as a PDF, attached to an email, and sent to a partner or financing entity for review. One feature of Ffit is the cost efficiency section, which provides usable information such as cost per acre, annualized cost per pound of pollutant reduced, EIA cost per acre, and EIA cost per MS4 credit. Here, the term annualized means the annual cost over the expected life of the best management practice, which is set to 30 years by default in the tool. EIA stands for Estimated Impervious Acres and is determined by the number of acres forested by the project, which translates into credit toward the implementer's restoration permit. Results from the cost efficiency section can be compared to efficiency criteria from other grant programs, for example, the Chesapeake, Atlantic, and Coastal Bays Trust Fund. MDE encourages users to explore co-funding a project with a mixture of grants and loans if possible. Having a grant lowers the amount of loan needed, and sometimes co-funding with SRF dollars can lead to a grant award. Now, we'll demonstrate how Ffit works, since that's likely the reason you're here. Let's begin with the yellow section of the tool. If you're curious about how far your money can take you with a forest restoration project, or would like to get a better idea of how much you can afford, this section of the tool is a great place to start. Here, you can create hypothetical scenarios to estimate what a forest restoration project might cost, how many stormwater credits might be earned, as well as what your annual loan payments might look like. In this example, our project is located in a riparian area where we're converting turf to forest. We're going to be following the 2021 MS4 accounting guidance. We can select that from this drop-down menu here. Next, we're thinking about investing $1.7 million in forest restoration activities. So we'll enter that figure here. Are we expecting any grant funding? Let's assume that we've applied for $250,000 worth of grant. We'll enter that here. What about the interest rate? Well, if we're going to finance our project with Maryland's Clean Water SRF program, we can expect to pay 0.9% interest on our loan. So we'll enter that figure here. We're also given the option to select how long we think it's going to take us to pay off our loan. So from this drop-down menu, we have loan term options between 5 and 30 years. For this example, we'll go ahead and select 15. Great, so based on the inputs that we've just completed in the gray boxes, over here under estimated benefits and annual costs, we can see that we can afford to reforest 226 acres, that we could earn up to 339 stormwater credits, and that our annual loan payments for our Maryland Clean Water SRF loan would be about $103,772. But what if we finance our project with a conventional bank loan using current market interest rates? Well, let's go back into our inputs and find out. Put 2.25% and see what changes over in our estimated benefits and annual costs. We can see now there's a significant change in what our annual loan payment might look like. What if we change our loan term? We'll change that to 30 years. We can see the impact that changing certain financing terms has on our outcome. What if we do a 30-year loan using Maryland's Clean Water SRF program? Now we can see the cost savings between the two. So far, so good? Okay, let's move on to the project planning tool. Now, if you already have a specific forest restoration project in mind, you'll want to use the green project planning section of the tool, which includes more detailed input data used to generate a comprehensive overview of anticipated project costs, potential cost savings, environmental benefits, stormwater and carbon credits earned, as well as cost efficiencies. Let's get started with project costs here in part 1 of this section. For our project, we're following the 2021 MS4 accounting guidance for a riparian project, so we will select that here. We will be converting turf to forest buffer, which we'll select from this drop-down menu here. The total area of our project is 140 acres, and we think that we're going to plant 350 trees per acre here. We can type that in. We'd also like to hire a landscaper to help us with pre-planting services. Professional landscapers are often used to assist with the development of a planting plan by providing a menu of tree and native grass species that will perform best in the project area from which to make selections for your project. These services also often include site visits, and soil preparation work prior to the planting of seedlings, containerized trees, and seed mixes. If you plan to hire professional landscaping services, make your selection using the cost per acre ranges provided in the drop-down menu. We'll select 3,000. If you do not plan on hiring a landscaper, you can simply enter 0. What do we want to plant as part of our project? Reforestation with hardwood and conifer species is a proven strategy to reducing pollutant loads, improving soil structure and composition, providing habitat, and increasing terrestrial carbon sequestration. We can use trees, native grasses, or a combination thereof. For our project, we're going to plant 40 acres with native grasses and 100 acres with trees. We will type in 40 acres here. And notice below we have a warning telling us that the total acreage needs to equal the total amount of acres we've entered in number 2A. Our total project acres are 140. So here, for how many acres we're going to plant with trees, whether it's seedlings or containerized trees, we'll enter 100 acres. And watch that warning disappear. We can plant seedlings or containerized trees. Here we'll select hardwood seedlings on 50 acres. Again, we see another warning telling us that our total acreage needs to equal the amount in number 5, where we said we're going to plant 100 acres with trees. We'll come down here and select conifers. We're going to do containerized trees for conifers, again on 50 acres, and watch that warning disappear. So what about contractor and labor services? If you plan to hire someone to take care of what you've planted by doing things like mowing, fertilizing, feeding, pruning, or mulching, select the amount that you anticipate spending per acre for these services. If you're not sure, simply select I don't know, and the tool will default to the national average of what people typically spend. For the purposes of this example, we'll select I don't know. Some projects may require a land survey to delineate property boundaries, a land appraisal so you can compensate private landowners for any easements they may be granting, or legal services to put those easement agreements together. Again, select the amount that you think you might spend for these services, and if you're not sure, just select I don't know, and the tool will use national averages. For our land survey on this project, we think we might spend $700. We think we might need an appraisal. We'll select $5,000 for our appraisal. And we might need the legal services to help us put some agreements together for easements. We'll say $1,000 for legal services. Now let's talk about those private easement payouts. If you think that you're going to need to compensate private landowners for the acreage they're contributing to your forest restoration project, enter the amount that you anticipate to pay per acre. The typical cost ranges between $3,000 an acre on the low end to $9,000 an acre on the higher end. For our project, we'll stick to the middle and enter $6,000. If you have any other project costs or expenditures that the tool does not capture, you can enter an aggregated dollar value here. We'll just assume we have $10,000 in miscellaneous other expenditures associated with our project. The last thing we need to fill out are the details on how the project will be financed. If you plan to receive any grant funds, you can enter them here. We'll assume we applied for $250,000 in grant. To get the interest rate for the SRF program, click on this hyperlink and enter the rate that you see on Maryland's webpage. We know right now that that rate is 0.9%, which we'll enter here. If you qualify as a disadvantaged community, you may receive additional interest rate or loan forgiveness incentives. If you're unsure whether or not you meet these criteria, click here on this hyperlink for more information, and then use the drop-down menu to make your selection. For our example, we'll say, yes. Do we know the interest rate that we would likely receive using a conventional loan or another source of financing other than the SRF? If we do, we can enter that interest rate, and we can also select, yes, I do know. and enter that rate here. We will say 2.25%. Last but not least, we need to select how quickly we anticipate repaying the loan. In this example, let's choose 20 years. We've now completed all of the user inputs for Ffit. Now let's take a look at our estimated project budget on the right-hand side. Remember that the budget is based on broad cost estimates only, and that actual project costs will vary. Line items for the user inputs and their associated costs are shown in low, mid, and high cost estimates. We can expect this project to cost, in the middle, around $1.4 million. Now, look at the user input fields and the estimated project cost table side by side as we modify some of our choices. What if we decide to plant 150 trees per acre? How does this affect the project costs? What if we decide we're not going to use a landscaper for services? Perhaps we've overestimated the amount that we might spend on an appraisal. Maybe it's only $1,000. As you can see, as you make modifications to the user inputs, you can see in real time how it affects the estimated project costs and the budget. But what about loan repayments? If we scroll down, we can see this section on the right, estimated MDE Clean Water SRF loan repayments. Again, these estimates are broken into low, mid-range, and high dollar figures. For this project, we can expect to pay an annual payment of $52,963. What's more, we can see how much financing with the SRF program can save you over the life of the loan. Compared to your other borrowing option, on average, going with the SRF program could save you $108,530 over the life of the loan, and that's a great cost savings. Let's explore part 2 of Ffit, Project Benefits. This section uses all the user input fields from part 1 of the project planning section to automatically generate a summary of the benefits that may be realized by doing the project. The number of credits earned is based on the land use conversion selected from D22 in the project planning section of Ffit. This project is a conversion from turf, so it may earn up to 170 MS4 stormwater credits. We'll talk about conversions from crop hay or pasture a little bit later. Forest restoration projects that include reforestation and native grass plantings are highly effective at filtering out sediment, organic matter, fertilizers, and nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. This section demonstrates the total amount of total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and total suspended solids that the forest restoration project may be capable of achieving in pounds per year. For our project, we can expect a reduction of 1,704 pounds of total nitrogen per year, 279 pounds of total phosphorus per year, and 441,000 pounds of total suspended solids reduced per year. Let's talk about the power of trees. Reforestation increases terrestrial carbon sequestration by adding to the planet's net carbon storage and helps moderate climate change by slowing the growth of carbon emissions in the atmosphere. In a carbon market, each ton of carbon sequestered is equal to 1 carbon credit, with an average price of $3 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. On average, 1 acre of new forest can sequester about 2.5 tons of carbon every year. For our project, younger trees can sequester a carbon equivalent of 98 credits every year with a value of $292.50. And when our trees get a little bit older than 10 years, we can expect to earn about 360 carbon credits per year at a value of over $1,000. Let's talk about drinking water source protection. Did you know that forest restoration activities can also protect surface and groundwater drinking water resources from contamination? This section of Ffit estimates how your project might impact drinking water treatment costs, an important benefit of forest restoration as part of a source protection strategy. Last but not least is part 3, measuring the cost efficiencies of your project. It's important to be able to make the case for investing in forest restoration projects to community leaders and other decision makers. Demonstrating the environmental benefits, such as pollutant load reductions, is a fundamental part of that business case. The other is demonstrating how cost-effective the project is in achieving such goals. This section of Ffit uses data from the user input fields and environmental benefits quantifications to calculate the implementation cost per acre, the annual cost per pound per acre of pollution reduced, and the cost of equivalent impervious acres for MS4 credit, annualized over the expected life of the forest restoration asset, which we estimate to be around 30 years. Here we can see how much our project may cost to implement per acre, the annual cost per pound of total nitrogen, total phosphorus, total suspended solids, and total carbon capture, the annual EIA cost per acre, and finally, the estimated EIA cost per MS4 credit earned. Remember that these project benefits and cost efficiencies will vary based on user input data that you enter in the project planning section. So let's take a look at how these selections might change project outcomes as we shift from riparian to non-riparian project. We'll scroll up to part 1. We're still going to have a turf conversion. Now we're just going to switch this to 2021 non-riparian. How does this affect our project benefits? It changes how many stormwater credits that we're earning. It also changes the total pounds per year of total nitrogen that might be reduced. The amount of carbon credits that we earn and those values remain the same. We can also see that there are some changes to our cost efficiencies, and they have shifted as well. How do these change if we select the 2014 riparian guidance for a mixed open conversion? Let's scroll up and find out. To part 1, we'll select 2014 riparian. For our land use conversion, we'll select mixed open. Let's scroll down to project benefits. We can see that there's significant difference in the amount of stormwater credits we could earn by doing the project, as well as our pollutant reduction expectations for total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and total suspended solids per year. We can still expect to get the same amount of carbon credits for the same value. We can also see shifts in our cost efficiencies for our project. Okay, what if we do it for a crop conversion? Let's see how this changes our outcome. Again, down here we can see that for crop, hay, or pasture conversion projects, we could earn 38 MS4 stormwater credits by doing the project. There are also some changes in the amount of total nitrogen reductions in pounds per year, as well as changes in our cost efficiencies. So there's important differences in how stormwater credits, pollutant reductions, and EIA credits are calculated, depending on which stormwater guidance your project adheres to. Note how changes in land use conversion and whether the project is in a riparian versus non-riparian area affect the outcomes of the tool. You can use Ffit to explore numerous project variations and how selecting different characteristics impact your project budget, loan repayment, and cost savings, as well as environmental benefits and cost efficiencies. For more information on the assumptions and methodology used to generate these outcomes, please refer to the Ffit user guide, which can be found on MDE's website. The results you get using Ffit will vary depending on whether you select the 2021 or the 2014 guidance. Permits using the 2021 guidance are geared toward large county jurisdictions. As a regulatory agency, MDE is always updating permits based on the latest knowledge and science. The 2021 guidance relies on the latest Chesapeake Bay Program Environmental Modeling Tool, version 6.0, and is consistent with the Chesapeake Assessment Scenario CAST tool. By contrast, permits issued under the 2014 guidance represent smaller populations, such as Maryland municipalities or counties, and follow a previous guidance that was developed in 2014. The science behind these permits was current at the time of issuance and relied on modeling data from the previous model, version 5.3.2. Full details of the 2021 and 2014 guidance can be found at the links provided in the PDF. Because of inherent differences between the two environmental model versions used in 2021 and 2014, the load calculations, credit received, and BMP options in Ffit are different for permits under 2021 versus the 2014 guidance. MDE's Sediment, Stormwater, and Dam Safety Program can answer any detailed questions you might have about the equivalencies and review credit calculation outcomes on a case-by-case basis. It may be possible for a community under a permit using the 2014 guidance to apply for and receive credit using the 2021 guidance under certain circumstances. You can follow up with MDE's SSDS program using the link and contact information provided in the PDF for more details. Another key difference between the 2021 and 2014 guidance calculations is native grass plantings. Calculations based on the 2021 guidance for both riparian and non-riparian forest buffer projects are based on EIA conversions that incorporate forest plantings and conservation landscaping, which includes native grasses. Pollutant load reductions for native grass plantings are based on the estimates provided for conservation landscaping in MDE's 2021 guidance. However, the 2014 guidance does not include conservation landscaping or any functional equivalent. For the purposes of the tool, the pollutant reduction values for native grass plantings applied to projects following the 2021 guidance will also be applied to those following the 2014 guidance. However, it is important to note that MS4 stormwater credits for native grass plantings may only be earned by projects following the 2021 guidance. Communities should be aware that Ffit is for planning purposes only, and that all outcomes are dependent on user-defined inputs. It's critical for users to understand each step of the process and decide whether the elements included in the overall calculation are realistic and make sense. Ffit does not compare costs between riparian forest buffers and other BMPs. However, communities may have their own local cost information from BMPs they've implemented. If not, they can refer to MDE's 2019 Stormwater Cost Report that we have linked to in the PDF. Using this information, a community can make comparisons that will help them inform decisions. Also, the costs in the Example Project Budget tab and other supporting tabs are estimates based on market research done in 2020 and 2021. These costs are organized to provide a range of high, medium, and low estimates for the user's convenience. However, if better local data is available, users can request an unlocked version of Ffit to customize these values. Ffit is designed for MS4 jurisdictions because stormwater permits help MDE make progress toward its watershed implementation plan goals and to improve your local water quality. It can be used by one program as a whole, or components of a project can be broken down to partner with various organizations. For example, if planting or maintenance is contracted out to a third party. This can save money and make projects for smaller jurisdictions more manageable. Ffit also allows a user to cost out each aspect of a project and calculate the total financing needed. Once you know how much a project will cost, it can be budgeted over years to help make it feasible. MDE encourages users to build project bundles that use riparian forest buffers to convert turf to forest. All projects submitted to the SRF are ranked on the scoring system, and restoration bundles will score best when they can receive the maximum amount of points. For example, if a bundle can achieve 140 acres of restoration or generate more than 2,000 pounds of total nitrogen reduction. Projects with less than that amount or that are non-riparian are also eligible for SRF financing and can still score well, but will not gain as many points in the competitive ranking system. Technical assistance is available to help you use Ffit to build your project. We want to make sure the data, costs, and procedures included in your estimates are relevant and as accurate as possible. Please reach out to the following programs based on your needs. Financing questions can be directed to MDE's Water Quality Financing Administration, stormwater permit questions to MDE's Sediment, Stormwater, and Dam Safety Program, and watershed restoration questions should be directed to MDE's Integrated Water Planning Program. You can use the links embedded in the PDF to get in touch with staff at any of these programs. Thank you for joining us to learn about the MDE Forest Financing Implementation Tool.